welcome to the Fearless Money Management Podcast, where we empower women to take control of their finances. I'm your host, Claire Strong, and today I'm chatting with fitness, nutrition, and exercise coach, Lauren Martin, all about nutrition and how that can help you when it comes to your finances. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Claire.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. And for those viewers or listeners that are watching us on YouTube, we're kind of, we're matching here a little bit. We didn't coordinate deliberately, but I'm in like this orange dress and you've got a nice red top on. So yes. So we're brightening things up around here. Yes, very fierce. Fierce for the fierce money management podcast. Very apt. Well, I'm so glad to have you back on the show because for our listeners who may not have caught the previous episode with you, we were chatting all about exercise and how that can help as it relates to finance. And so the other part of that is nutrition, isn't it? Because, as we mentioned a lot on this show, finances can be very overwhelming, really stressful, especially if you're starting out or you're starting over after a divorce or a life event. And so we need to be, fighting fit and fighting on, firing on all cylinders, as it were. And nutrition plays a big part in that, doesn't it? So, Lauren, just kind of explain to me, I guess, starting out, why it's so important that we, get into good eating habits and have good nutrition to help us in our financial journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the old age or the age old saying of you are what you eat. And like, it really does impact your mental clarity, your energy levels, your health, your overall wellness. So nutrition is really the cornerstone of a healthy lifestyle and feeling really, really good. So.
Okay. And I know, just from personal experience, if I've had a few days or I've had a week where I haven't been eating well, and by well, I don't mean necessarily being on some sort of strict diet. I'm just talking about making sure that I've had fruits and vegetables and enough protein and all of that jazz. I do feel extra tired and just not quite myself. So, okay. So off the back of that, then, what should we be eating? What foods should we be including in our everyday diets to make sure that we're, at our best to deal with the very often stressful subject of finances?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in society, it's gotten everything's been like a really grab and go. And I think the biggest thing is like really trying to avoid as much packaged food as possible and really get back to that whole food eating. So, really making sure you said it, ensuring that you're getting enough vegetables, ensuring that you're getting enough fruits, healthy, lean proteins, making sure you're hydrating enough water intake instead of running on caffeine and sugar and packaged foods.
Yes.
I think that's the most important. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because everything is so convenient now and you really do have to plan a little bit, but thinking about like, this is the only body that you get, this is the only brain that you get, and ensuring that it gets the proper nutrients to run optimally is really, really important for your everyday life.
Okay, so tell me 3 of your top foods that you think we should be including in our diet every day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, 3 top foods. I always try to think of, I think it's a little bit all the rage right now, but ensuring that you get enough protein is really important because that's going to stabilize your blood sugar. So our blood sugar is meant to not, it's supposed to be like very even. And when we don't get enough protein and we get like a lot of processed foods or sugars or carbohydrates, our blood sugar goes up and down and then our brain gets foggy and those up and downs are really hard to concentrate. So protein, I would say, is like my first like thing that I work on with people because one, it's the hardest thing to get because you have to prepare it. Usually you can't just reach in your fridge and grab a piece of chicken, like you could just reach in the cupboard and get some snack foods is really easy. But so you have to be a little bit mindful of getting your protein intake. And by that, it's like, I really like starting my day off with some sort of egg vegetable scramble or some sort of protein shake. That's always a go-to. If you're vegan, it's a little, I'm not a specialist in vegan or vegetarian, so I won't really speak on that too much, but those are my 2 go-to breakfasts. And then ensuring that you get, grilled chicken, fish, salmon, lean beef, any of that kind of stuff. And throughout the day, it's really helps stabilize your blood sugar. That's
Okay,
my go-to.
before we move on, because I know you're going to tell me another two top foods that you want
Yeah.
to include or that we should be including, but just on the back of the protein thing. So, again, this can be really overwhelming because when I go
Ugh.
onto TikTok or Instagram, which I'm usually on Instagram, but I'm scrolling and I am getting hit by reels of how much protein. This is what I eat in a day, and this
Hmm.
is how much protein you should have. And so, like, for example, for the average woman, how much protein should we be consuming a day? And what should that protein look like?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. So everybody's going to vary in protein, but from a generalization, 0.08 to 1 gram of protein per body weight, or ideal body weight, excuse me. So, like, let's just throw it out there. If you're 120 pounds, up to 120 grams of protein is ideal. So anywhere between maybe 100 and 120 grams of protein. And that might seem like a lot because it's like, whoa, like, am I going to be chugging scrambled eggs or, yolks? But no, the size of your palm, like, piece of protein is 25 grams. So you're not
Oh,
really, yeah. So one piece of chicken is 25 grams of protein. One scoop of protein powder is going to be 25 grams of protein. If you have two eggs, that's about 14. And then if you have, let's say, a little bit of nut butter with that, then you're hitting the 20 grams of protein. So really, it's not as daunting as you think. But it is something that you have to focus on to get, because it's very easy to not get it.
hmm. Okay. So I liked your measurements. So just as a rough measurement, like the
Hmm.
palm of your hand is a good,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah, a good guide. Okay, I love that. So here's the other thing I wanted to ask you about protein. So is it just, does everyone need that amount of protein in a day, or is it for women that maybe are wanting to like get lean and bulk up because they're weightlifting, or do we all need it?
Yeah, we actually all need it, because you might need a little bit more if you're like weightlifting or a bodybuilder, or if you're like an athlete or something. But for the most part, most human beings need protein, because you need to have a pool of amino acids, which all it means is like you have to help build your muscle. And if you look at a skeleton, for instance, we just got out of Halloween season. A skeleton only holds itself up through muscle. So all of your muscles attached to your skeletal structure. So as you see people as they get older, you notice they start to like crunch down. Well, that's
Yeah.
because their muscles are atrophying, which is deflating. And if you don't,
Hmm.
well, we talked about it in the last episode, if you don't exercise your muscles, then they're going to atrophy. But then if you don't have
Hmm.
enough nutrients to help build those muscles, they're going to atrophy. And over time, your body is going to start to not be able to develop and be as functional. And I think all of us want to live a functional, happy life as we get older. So that's one of my main priorities from having enough protein too, is to keep myself fit and strong. So as I get older, I can still continue to do the things that I love.
Okay, so we've covered protein. What are the other two things that we should be eating every day?
Yeah, so definitely vegetables. So I think, oh, it's so hard to get enough vegetables. I mean, I know I have kids, getting them to eat like one vegetable a day is like pulling teeth, and adults are the same. I see it all the time. So it's like, not only, I think most people like vegetables, like I love them, but I have to prepare them. So it's really hard to reach for that. So
Mhm.
definitely vegetables. Some of my favorites, broccoli, salads are pretty easy, even a handful of carrots,
Mhm.
snap peas, but really trying to incorporate at least one time a day. I'm giving you once a day, get some vegetables in there, ideally 3 to 5 times a day into your meals, but at least shoot for one vegetable a day.
Well, you know what I've started doing with my kids? Now, my girls are teens now, so they can do stuff for themselves, but they've started getting really into smoothies. But as part of their smoothie, they throw in a load of spinach. So
Hmm.
I know that they've got one vegetable in there. They usually do spinach, bananas, they put some frozen strawberries in, and then I try and get them to put some peanut butter in or some almond butter just for the extra protein. But so that's a good way. That's a hack that I found works. Just getting some veggies into a
Yes.
smoothie. Another thing I do, because quite often I don't necessarily cook I mean, we eat pretty healthy in our house, but I wouldn't necessarily for dinner make three different vegetable options. So to get my own vegetable intake, I will quite often snack on carrots and hummus and just that type of thing. Just having stuff
Hmm.
readily available that you can just grab, and sometimes even raw, especially like I say carrots, or you mentioned snap peas. You
Hmm.
can eat those raw. They're pretty tasty, especially if you've got a bit of hummus or something to dip them into.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The other thing you can do is when you are making dinner, I always make a little bit of an extra so I can have that for a side with my lunch or with something else the next day. So, like having it prepared for the next day, like making a little extra at night will
Hmm.
help for the next morning. And then you also mentioned the protein powder. So, you can kind of stack those two habits with the smoothie that your daughters have, add in a scoop of protein powder. So, now
Yes.
only are they getting their vegetables, they're also getting protein. And as nut butter, it does add in protein, but it's really considered a fat and not a protein. So you really want to make sure
Hmm.
that they're getting enough protein. So you're getting two bangs for your buck, right? You're getting the protein and the vegetable.
Yeah, I love it. And it's nice and easy too. So, have you got any other hacks for us to include vegetables in our diet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, preparation is a big one. I know that's not really a hack. But if you're making, say, for instance, you love pasta or something, you can add in, shredded zucchini into the sauce or peppers and onions into the sauce. Anytime you're making any dish, just adding in extra vegetables. So if the recipe calls for one pepper, add in three. If you're, always adding as much as you can.
Yeah, I like
Um,
doing that.
yeah. So, but there's not a lot of hacks. The hack is really just having to be mindful and prep and plan and then execute.
Okay. All right. So we've got protein, we've got vegetables. What's the third thing that we should really be trying to include in our diets every day?
Yeah, so everybody's so scared of carbohydrates, but actually in order for your brain to function properly, it does need carbohydrates. And so I think we get scared of them because when we think of carbohydrates, we think of the bad ones. Like we think of
Yes.
pasta and bread and rice, and I can't have any of that. But
Yes.
everybody forgets that an apple has 25 grams of carbohydrates. A
Oh,
banana
wow.
has 27 grams of carbohydrates. Black beans have 45 grams of carbohydrates. Mangoes, all these other things they have like oatmeals and grains they also have it, but they're not as they call it your glycemic index. So
Hmm.
big breads and sugars make your blood sugar go like this, but if you have good carbohydrates or low glycemic like fruits and healthy carbohydrates, those actually help your brain function. And when paired, this is the trick, when paired with protein and fat, then they don't rise your blood sugar as much. So kind of making sure that you're balancing when you have carbohydrates, making sure you're balancing it with a protein is a hack.
Okay, so what you're saying is we should be having carbohydrates with protein in the same sitting. Is that what you're saying? So the same
Hmm.
serving. So not
Yep.
necessarily having like a slice of bread, but having it, if we were doing that, we're having it alongside protein to balance things out. Okay, so what I
Yep.
want you to clarify, and I've heard this, I think I've got a pretty good idea, but then, I go on Instagram and what do I know? Okay, so clarify once and for all for us, Lauren.
Oh no.
What is examples of good carbohydrates and bad carbohydrates? Because there are good carbs and bad carbs. So give us an example of both.
Yeah. So good I hate to say good and bad, but I would say low glycemic or high glycemic because it affects your blood sugar difference. So a sweet potato is a low glycemic um, carbohydrate, and a high glycemic carbohydrate would be a white roll with butter. So,
Oh, boo. Why
I
bread tastes so good though, doesn't it?
I know,
But
but
okay,
yeah,
okay.
but when paired, any carbohydrate, as long as it's paired with a protein, will cut that glycemic index down because it'll help stabilize your blood sugar. So, like if you're going to have a piece of pizza, for instance, have a salad, which is your vegetable, with some
Mhm.
grilled chicken on it. So you're getting the protein in the vegetable, but then you're also getting the low or the high glycemic carbohydrate, but it'll be better for you than having three pieces of high glycemic pizza and no protein or vegetables. So a little
Okay.
bit of balance.
Yeah, so you can still have the things you like. It's
Hmm.
just, I guess, being a bit smart about what you're having alongside your pizza or your bread or whatever it
Hmm.
might be. Okay,
Yep.
so water. Let's talk about water because
Hmm.
again, so much stuff online about how much water you should drink. In fact, I should have brought just to show you as a prop. My 13-year-old has the world's biggest water bottle. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
literally about 18 liters big. She can't even carry. It's bigger than a body. Um, but she saw that because she'd seen on TikTok that this is how much water you're supposed to drink. So I want to know how much water should we be aiming to drink in a day, and I also want to know why it's so important for us to drink that much water as it relates to, finances and us being in a good mental state to be able to deal with them.
Yeah, your body is primarily made up of water. So if it's dehydrated, even like 3%, your brain, I'm not a scientist, but like I do know that like your brain capacity for clarity and functioning and all of those things goes down significantly by being dehydrated. So as you're drinking water, I know I'm like, oh, I should drink some water now too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
so
just
like,
feeling dehydrated right then, but yes, I was just
yeah,
grabbing a
I
swig.
think about it as like, think of your body as very, very basic and it runs on water and fuel. And without like an adequate amount of fuel, it's just unable, it's like taxed so much harder. So it has to work so much harder just to do a small task than if it was hydrated and fueled properly. You're like working, you're able to function so much better because your body's not like slowed down everywhere else. So water is a very, very, very important function of the human brain, which then you're allowed to work on things that are hard, like taxes and finances and, being focused to do the things that are hard versus like I'm dehydrated and I'm like out to lunch, like,
Well,
and I,
that's
yeah.
that's the thing, Lauren. That's the thing. I mean, I
Hmm.
find that with myself. If I'm dehydrated, and you're now drinking water, very good,
I
excellent.
know. It's like, it makes me want
Following
to
your
drink.
own advice, I like to see it. Something I'm not very good at. But when it comes to water, if I haven't drunk enough water, I do feel very foggy. I can't focus. And, if I'm trying to then put energy and focus into tackling my finances, I'm not going to do a good
Hmm.
job because I don't have the staying power or the wherewithal to even take in the information.
Yeah.
So, okay, water. I mean, I like drinking water. In fact, even with my kids, we've only ever really had, it sounds terrible. We've only ever really had water in the house. I've never had like fizzy drinks, or we call them pop in England. We've
Yep.
never had like sodas in the house. I think partly because that's how I was brought up. My mom and dad didn't like them in the house. So my
Hmm.
kids have always grown up really drinking water primarily. So I don't mind drinking it, but I've got friends who really, they don't like water. They don't like the taste of it. So they'll add things to it to make it more palatable. So I want to ask you, for those of us who may not like love drinking water, or for those of us who just forget, because sometimes you're so busy, you forget to drink, share with me some hacks about how we can,
Yeah.
make sure we're getting enough water into our daily diet.
Yeah, I think I have a ton of those. Like first thing when you wake up in the morning, just have 8 ounces of water. That's a great way to start your day. They also say if you put some lemon in it, it's really helpful for detoxification and things like that and helping your body just kind of like wake up and get a little less cortisol and stress. So like I try to do that every morning before I have my coffee, which I'm never going to give up. So I always try
Hot
to
or
have that
cold? Question, hot or cold
hot.
water? Oh, hot
Oh
in the
no, no,
morning, hot
no, oh
cold
no.
water.
I thought you meant
Oh,
coffee.
the coffee. Yeah, I'm with you. Hot. Well, I'm a tea drinker, so I drink my hot tea in the morning. But the water, when you first wake up, what is there like a
Yeah,
preference? Is
I
one
don't
better than
have
the other?
I don't think one's better than the other. I don't have a preference. I think it's just hydrating yourself however you prefer it.
Okay.
And then a second hack would be, setting a timer every hour and a half to 2 hours and having an 8 ounce glass of water. That's a hack. Another thing is just like your daughter, you don't have to have one of those crazy water bottles, but like measuring out how much you should have per day and just going through it. And usually about half your body weight in ounces is of your ideal body weight. So, if you're 120 pounds, at least, oh my gosh, 60. Did I just do that right? Yeah, 60
Yeah, I
ounces.
can work that one out, I think. Yeah, half of
Yeah. So
120. Yeah,
yeah,
60.
I'm like, wow, that just, we're talking about fight. Maybe you and
Hey,
I need
what
the finance
this is,
help.
I'm telling you, I'm improving here. I was able to work that one out. And yeah, I'm going to give myself I'm going to need to celebrate my little win there. But yes.
Yeah. Maybe I'm a little dehydrated. I need to drink a little bit more. So I'm a little bit more clear.
Oh
Um,
my God. So
yeah.
basically you should be aiming to drink a half your body weight in water.
Yeah, per day. Your
Yeah.
ideal
Okay.
body weight. So if you're,
Yeah.
that I don't like to go too extreme. I mean, we don't need to be extreme here, especially for the regular person. Athletes might be a little different, or people who expend a lot of sweat and energy. I have a job that's requires more water, but don't try to kill yourself. But I think we talked about this when I talk about fitness or nutrition. It's all about the consistency. So if you're consistently getting 60 ounces of water per day, then like you're hitting the mark. But if you're 100 one day and 20 the next day, like it's really just about consistent.
Okay, so keeping consistent. I like that. And making it manageable,
Mhm.
because when you explained to me that every couple of hours you should be drinking basically a glass of water, that seems fine. But then if you present me with this like monster sized bottle and I've got to down all of that in a day, then that becomes a little overwhelming. And
Yeah.
the point of this podcast is to make things not seem quite as overwhelming, and this certainly is one of them. Okay,
Great.
so many of our listeners listening to this podcast may be starting over financially. They may be kind of pinched financially. And so have you got any like money saving food hacks that you can share with us, and tips on how to eat healthily and make sure we're getting the nutrition that our body and minds need while
Yep.
still not breaking the bank?
Yeah, I'm a single mom of three, divorced, and I have three young kids, and I have two growing boys who play hockey. So my food bill is like it's like mind blowing. So
Yeah, mine is too. It's crazy.
I have to really think about that, and especially now starting over after a divorce with finances, I have to be really budget friendly, which is overwhelming because you walk into the market and everything is so expensive. So
Mm.
having the first thing is having a plan and having a list is very important because it's so easy to be like, ooh, oh, don't bring your kids. If you can shop without your kids, that's a hack because they just throw things in the cart and then all of a sudden you're at like $500. So,
Well, listen, it gets worse as they get older. Let me just tell you that, because my
yeah,
girls are teenagers now. The worst thing that can happen, especially my younger one, is to say she wants to come to the grocery store with me. I'm like, oh, hell
yeah,
no. Hell no. I was like, you can text me your list, but you are not physically coming with me because my bill will be
yeah.
double, absolutely double what I was
Hmm.
expecting it to be if you are in attendance. So yeah, don't bring your kids. Hack number
Don't bring
one.
your kids.
Don't bring
Hack
your kids
number
with
one.
me.
And second is like planning out in advance. So like figuring out what meals you're going to eat for the week. And then I do a thing where I make in bulk, right? So I do dinners and then I use those dinners as lunch for the next day. So I end up only making
Yeah.
about 3 dinners a week. And I make extra. So like, I'll do like a crock pot of chicken and then I'll use that with a vegetable the next day for lunch. And that's a big hack because going out to eat to get a salad at Panera Bread is $15. To make it at your house is about 3. So
Mm.
like that's a huge saving. And it doesn't seem like a lot at the time, but 15 times 5, let's not do the math here because my brain's not, I need water. But it adds up and we don't realize all of a sudden you're spending $400 a month on Panera salads where you could have made more and less money for the month. Another hack with finances, because I'm in this right now. This is my big one. I'm working on a budget right now because I'm rebuilding myself. So another thing is taking out cash from the bank and setting a budget. Like, so I tried to do $150 a week. That was smashed right away. So,
Oh,
because
wow.
yeah, I tried, but that didn't work. So like, let's say 250 a week, right? And I don't know anybody's budget. I'm trying. I'm just trying to figure it out. And so
Yeah, groceries are so expensive.
I take out on a Sunday $250 and then I set out a plan of like what I'm going to eat for the week with kids and snacks and things. And then trying to just physically use the cash and you're like, oh, I spent $100 today. Now I have 150 left. And like it makes you a little bit more mindful of money versus getting a credit card
Yes.
statement. And that's been
Yeah,
helpful.
I like
And,
that.
and then maybe you do it for a few months and you realize like that's not realistic and I have to budget for 400 or 300 or whatever your family's number is. But like it gets you a little bit more aware of, first of all, what you're eating, what you're spending. So it's kind of twofold. It's like I have my clients do it too because I'm like, what are you eating? What are you spending your money on? And even if you're not on a budget, maybe that extra money could go towards something fun or the kids' savings or something like that. So,
Yeah, totally. I like that because it's like a visual cue, isn't it? And I'm very visual when it comes
mhm,
to learning. So yeah, having the physical cash in your hand and you can see that it's going down and what you've got left. Yeah, that could
mhm,
definitely work. That would probably work for me. I might start that. Because the other thing is you mentioned about going to get a Panera salad. Well, my thing, and I know a lot of my friends are the same, my thing is coffee. I mean, I like to reward myself with a latte from the coffee shop down the
mhm.
street. That's my reward for getting through a day, managing the kids, managing work, not literally losing my mind. But those coffees are $7, $8. And if
Mhm.
you add those up, and if I'm having one a day, I don't want to do the math because I'm
It's
trying
like
to
about
avoid thinking about it.
$200. It's
But
like
it does.
$200 a month.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does add up. And then
And
on
that's
top of that,
$2,400 a year.
Which, when you put it like that, that's astonishing. That's like a week in Hawaii, maybe in an Airbnb. I mean, you
Hmm.
know, so I totally agree with you that, you know, if you can look at your, you know, your spending and what you are spending on food,
Hmm.
A, you could save a lot if you were making stuff in the house, and B, generally it's going to be healthier too, isn't it?
Yeah, and maybe you do have like, you have the $250 budget, and then at the end of the week, you're like, wow, I only spent 235. I get two coffees now at the end of the week. That's my
Yeah.
treat. So like it stays within the budget. And the other thing that I've been doing with my kids, because my kids are getting at that age where money is becoming something we need to talk about. So they're 7 and 10. I have a little one, 4, but they're involved in the budget because I just got divorced, and I was like, they want all these things that they had when we had a dual income. And I said, unfortunately, I just can't afford that right now. So I said, let's set a budget that's realistic for them, and they play the game too. They get a certain amount of money per month and what they want to spend it on, and like we do the budget together. And at the end, if the food budget is under or the entertainment budget is under, it goes into a jar, and then we can plan something really fun together. So it can be a learning tool.
I love that because
Hmm.
for me, growing up, finances were never discussed. My mum and dad, you know, they weren't wealthy, but they were able to make the mortgage every month, and we didn't have, you know, crazy financial stresses. So I was very much kept out of the finances. And again, I
Hmm.
think it might be a bit of a cultural thing in the UK. You don't talk about money, politics, or religion, basically. And so I was never in an environment where money was ever discussed. And so with my kids, because I've been through a divorce. I was a single parent for many years with just
Yep.
my income to support the three of us. And so, in some ways, I'm a bit sad that they've been more aware of finances than I would have liked. But I like how you are turning it into a positive because you're actually teaching them really
Hmm.
valuable life lessons moving forward, and you're including them, which I love. And so I
Hmm.
might look at doing that with my girls. They're older than your kids, but I think because they are older, they do have a better concept of finances now.
Yeah.
So that's really, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, so you can incorporate what you're learning with your financial stuff with your kids to the, age appropriate level, I think is really something that I want to do with moving forward. So,
Yeah, and I think because I've got two girls as well, I'm very keen for them, you know, in the spirit of this podcast, to be very
mhm.
financially independent and financially literate. So, you know, they're not reliant on someone else for their financial safety, basically. So, yeah, all important stuff. Well, this has been fantastic. And to our listeners who didn't check out the previous episode with you, I really would encourage you to do that because Lauren goes into lots of detail about the exercise aspect of keeping yourself in a good space, especially as it relates to dealing with finances. So check that out too. But Lauren, for people that aren't following you already or who'd like to maybe reach out and get some more advice from you, where can we find you?
Yep, you can find me everywhere. Just Lauren Martin Fit, like FIT for fitness. I'm on, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I don't do the Twitter thing, but yeah, all those areas. And I do talk about empowering women through nutrition, health, and fitness and habit change. So that's my thing.
I love it. Thank you so much. And we'd love to hear from you as always. So, you know, let us know your nutrition tips and hacks and, you know, what foods you find work for you and help you maybe, you know, feel at your best. And yeah, and anything meal planning wise. And we'd love to hear about those because certainly as women and especially as mums, we're always looking for time saving hacks for sure because we're all so busy. So thank you so much, Lauren. It's been
You're
great
welcome.
speaking
Thank
with
you.
you. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of Fearless Money Management. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us to reach even more amazing women on their journey to financial freedom. Bye for now.